A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20, soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadow Play in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus. Available where books are sold.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision. I'm Sean.
I am Anthony the Annihilator.
Oh, he's always got the good stuff going. And I'm Ray.
Ray, you could have done I'm Ray, the Ray gun.
The Ravager?
There you go. Look at that. So, yeah. And I'm Sean the Serpentine. I don't know.
Slayer.
Anyway, there you go. You're good at this. You guys are natural. Okay. So, today, even though we were not able to, assemble to watch this, although it's getting closer, there's machinations at work here. We all watched, one particular movie that dropped at midnight 2 days ago, and
Yeah,
I think Anthony actually watched it at midnight the day it dropped, if I'm not mistaken.
I certainly did.
And I watched it today. Ray, you watched it last night, and that movie is Cagney and Lacey, The Reckoning.
Oh, the Reckoning.
Man, Tyne
I
Daly.
thought it was Baby Booms.
Tyne Daly has aged well. I mean, that topless scene, holy cow. No, we watched Mortal Kombat. So,
We did.
guys, I'm gonna largely defer to you. I don't know the first fucking thing about Mortal Kombat. I've said on the show before, I am not against it. It came in after my tenure. I stopped playing video games with the original Nintendo. Not against them. It just that was my timeline. So I know Anthony is probably the biggest fan here of the Mortal Kombat brand series, whatever. So Anthony,
It all started back in 1990. No, it didn't actually. So this is the newest incarnation of the Mortal Kombat film series. We had the first one back in 95, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Largely known as like an awful film, but back then, 13-year-old me, I was in the theaters fucking losing my goddamn mind with 200 other teenagers that were just as angsty and ready to see people kick the shit out of each other. And but I mean, that was 25 years ago. And so, here we are again, with a newly revamped version of that story with rated R, with a heavy R rating and gore, which was the thing that was missing from the original film back in 95, because it got released PG-13 to appeal to a wider audience. And it was effective in that regard. It was able to get a lot more people in seats. But here we are, COVID, we're sitting at home, we've got the HBO Max, and I honestly, it was a film that I was really looking forward to going and seeing, do the IMAX experience, et cetera, which I could still do right now. It's just a little iffy. But I don't even know what's the director on this film.
I think it's McQuaid. He's got one producer credit, that's Mortal Kombat, and he's got one director credit, one feature length, Mortal Kombat, and before that in 2014, The Nighttime Economy. I'm sure there's an interview out there that explains how this came to be. Personally, I'm glad they gave him a chance. I don't know. So Anthony, what did you think about the direction?
You can definitely tell it's a rookie. Definitely tell it's a rookie. I mean, script wise, it's a tad campy. It's funny where it needs to be. It's this unfortunately that kind of takes away from the seriousness of it when it needs to get serious.
I can
But
see that for sure.
yeah, long story short, I mean, look, quick synopsis of the film for the audience who doesn't know about Mortal Kombat. It's basically our dimension of Earth is in peril. So what happens is other dimensions conquer other dimensions via this fighting tournament, Mortal Kombat. And in order to do that, you have to win 10 Mortal Kombats in a row. This other dimension, Outworld, has won 9. So we're on our last leg. We're about to be completely fucked, wiped out. And, here's this, group of ragtag idiots who know how to fight that are going to go defend our realm against these, otherworldly monsters and demons, etc. But they're all fighters or, what have you. So as far as like lore goes, that's still there. But that's the gist of it. And then they just kind of throw you in from the viewpoint of a brand new character that's being introduced into the Mortal Kombat series, who is Cole Young. And he's supposed to be,
okay.
Yeah. So he's the every guy basically that we can all relate to, like, whoa, what the fuck's happening? I don't know anything about this, so all the shock and awe is being delivered through him, and you're kind of, going through that experience with him. And it's fun.
That lore, so that is that from the video games? Is that from, like, I don't know, were there like comics and cartoons, or like how did that unfold?
Yeah, there's a shit ton of expanded universe stuff through comic books, cutscenes from other Mortal Kombat video games. I mean, they're on Mortal Kombat 11 right now. Okay. So the storyline has gone, like I said, probably since 1990 up until now. I'm sorry, up until about 2 years ago with the last video game that came out. And so I mean, it's got a rich history, and it's got a very rich storytelling element to it. That's actually quite surprising for a game about people kicking the shit out of each other and ripping each other's arms off. Like, yeah. So it's pretty cool to see some of that stuff come through. Obviously, they can't nail all of it, and they did a good, they made a good shot at it. The film's almost 2 hours long. So I mean, they try to squeeze in as much as they can, and that's basically just the beginning. Like, there's still so much more shit that they can touch on, and storylines that get so much more deeply involved. There's drama, there's kids, there's murder, mayhem, all the above.
So, okay, 2 questions. I guess, let's see. So have they, the way that realm thing is set up, so you have to win to take over one dimension, to take over the other dimension, they have to win 10 tournaments. So that means that it's Outworld fighting Earthworld for 10 times, but there's other realms, right?
Yeah, and they can fight simultaneously. They can do multiple Mortal Kombats at different places and times.
So do the games or the expanded stuff ever deal with, like, not Earth? So, like, let's say Earth and Outworld, but then there's like these other 2 worlds that would, conceivably not look anything like what we think of.
To some degree, but by the time that you're seeing all this stuff, Outworld's Emperor Shao Kahn, who they show briefly for a second in Outworld, it's just this giant statue of a man holding a hammer. So that's the Emperor of Outworld, and basically, Outworld has won so many tournaments and merged their realm with those realms, that Outworld is just this like giant conglomerate of all these other different realms and mishmashing of realms and species and types of people that are all forced to live in this small, well, not small, but pretty fucked up post-apocalyptic wasteland of what they used to have.
It looks like there's a scene where you're seeing that, and there's a cloaked figures moving through it or whatever, and it's very sparse. It reminded me of Phantasm, the other world. It looked a little bit like that. So I guess that's something you could kind of compare it to a little bit, as far as like your post-apocalyptic or whatever wasteland.
But so they're aware of each other. They're all aware of that, and they're all aware that now that they're in Outworld, they're now enslaved by Shao Kahn, and basically forced to do the bidding of him, bidding for him, which also includes competing in Mortal Kombats with other realms that, you know,
Right.
basically forced into conflict with people they don't want any conflict with. You know, so a lot of people are very they're very reluctant to fight in Mortal Kombats because it doesn't serve them. It doesn't help them get their own realm back or their reality back or anything like that. All it does is just further punish whomever is going to get, you know, absorbed into this world. I'm ranting. I'm sorry. I could do
No,
this
no,
fucking all
you're
day
not at all.
long.
You're the authority as far as I'm concerned. And the second question I have, and I open this up to both you guys, you know, for the listener, I don't think this is a spoiler. Maybe it is, but so, you know, maybe scoot ahead a couple seconds, but they never actually get to the 9th tournament. They just, the whole plot is that the bad guys are like, we don't even want it to get to the tournament. We're just going to send our forces in to kill them where they sleep. And so all of the fighting takes place under, you know, pre-tournament. And then it ends and they're going to find more heroes or whatever to fight for Earth. So, I mean, obviously the ending leaves it open for a second one immediately. But I just thought that it was interesting that I was like, oh, I thought it was going to culminate with the actual competition, and it doesn't. So, you know, I don't know.
That was
Thoughts?
a big thing for me too. I was looking for that and I didn't see that. I was like, oh, this is them cheating. And
Yeah,
that's integral. It's integral to other storylines with Mortal Kombat. So I'm assuming that it's going to go into that stuff in possible sequels, because they just talked about doing 4 more films.
You could see it.
Yeah, Ray, go for it,
what'd
man.
you think, man?
Well, I'll tell you, my history with Mortal Kombat is I remember the video game. I remember when it first was an arcade game, and it was only in arcades, and it was a big deal when it first made it to anything because of the blood. Like and even the version that we got on different systems was a tamed down version. Like you went to the arcade, and the reason it became such an attractive game was, you know, more Street Fighter was really big at that time. And there's this game, and like it was motion picture capture, if that makes sense. Like what they literally did was recorded actors doing the moves and things like that. So there was a limited set of things that each character could do, and punches always looked the same, especially from one character to the next. I mean, so that was part of the attraction. And the other thing was that, you know, you played the game and, like, you know, someone could rip another person's head off and there'd be like a spine dangling down and blood coming off of it. You punched a guy off of a ledge and he landed on spikes and things like that. You know, Scorpion's famous throw of his I forget what that spike with the chain attached to it and then pulling someone over. You know, you saw blood come out of them. So that was a big attraction for the game. And even the movie that came out in '95, like I saw it in the theater. I was there, Anthony. I was 18 years old. And yes, it's cheesy. It holds a bit of nostalgia for me. Like I look at it now and go, God, how did I think this was so good? Because I left that theater with my friends going, this was fucking great. This is like the best video game adaptation we've ever seen. Which is not saying a lot, but as far as video game adaptations go. But it was bloodless. Like you saw it, and like there was people getting killed, but everyone's like getting neck breaks and things like that. So there wasn't any of the blood, and it just was totally lacking. And they even made a sequel, and in the sequel, which is really hard to watch, really terrible and hard to watch. There's still no blood, and you're like, what is happening? You made another movie, and again, no blood. And then I know the series continued. I've seen the way the kills have gotten, they've really gotten exponentially crazier. Like, you know, that's one thing about this film, and like I think Anthony might agree. If you see the way that people get killed in the video game now, like it's not even at the level that there is in this movie. And there's some pretty good ones in the movie. There's some pretty impressive kills, but like, there's stuff, man, in the new game where, like, you know, someone's like heart gets pulled out of their chest only to be filled with a grenade, only to be put back in their body so that they can then explode and blow into bloody chunks. Like, I don't know the name of the character, but I know I've seen that one before.
isn't there a Serbian film skin for it too? I think. No, okay, never mind.
Shit, there may be, because I mean, they've included like, and they know what they've got now with that series, because they've included like a lot of like iconic film characters. Like Joker's one of the playable character now, and the Predator I think is a character. I know that RoboCop's one of the playable characters from the old film, the Verhoeven. So it's a series that, you know, really builds on its violence, and like, you know, this
Love
movie, it has a lot more of it. It has a lot more of the blood. It has a lot more lethality, if I can say that, if that's a word, for this film, that like you're watching it and like, you know, people die and they're not going to come back after that fight. So it's entertaining. I mean,
but death is just another portal.
Indeed. Very true. Very true. That movie does make that statement and has that idea present. I thought it was good. It was definitely entertaining. Like it's like the acting's fine. Like it's nothing cringy. Like I can say that. Like
I agree.
The original has moments like, and I don't even know if you've even ever seen it, Sean, but there's okay, famously the character Raiden.
Mm-hmm.
And the original was played by Christopher Lambert. And the reason it was played by Christopher Lambert is because he was such a fan of the video game. He was instrumental in it getting even the financing together to get it made. And when they were like, "Oh, that's great, thank you so much," you know, like, you know, we appreciate you helping us getting this made, you know, and he's like, "Oh, no problem. I just want to be in the movie." And they're like, okay. I guess you can play Raiden, and he's
the
like,
Chinese thunder god.
I was thinking, yes. Yeah. And so you have Christopher Lambert showing up, and like literally he shows almost every scene. He shows up as Raiden and just appears in front of the humans. He always does the chuckle, and you're like, what is he doing? I don't have any explanation for why he does it so much in the film, other than he just thought this will be neat, like people will dig it, or it's just a Lambertism, but that's what he did. So every time like he shows up on screen, you're like, get ready.
Here it comes.
And the other thing is that I forget the original actor who played Shang Tsung,
Kerry Tagawa.
Thank you. He's good.
Yeah.
The way he said "your soul is mine" it's a meme.
Oh wow.
It's "your soul is mine."
Oh
like
wow.
You're like, wow, what? Like so, it's so theatrical. It's downplaying that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get the sense that they took a much, you know, I mean, it's not going to win any fucking awards for writing or acting or whatever. However, it was not cringy at all. Like,
yeah,
you know, coming at it with no attachment, I had a good time watching it. I mean, I went in knowing it was going to be a popcorn flick. It was a very serviceable one. I enjoyed some of the gore. I enjoyed even some of the way they put certain things together plot wise. I thought, oh, okay. I don't know if that's like from the video game, but it was, you know, the whole the world tournament thing that Anthony was describing. I thought was kind of cool. Here's a question. So Ray Dan is obviously based on the same thing. He's either based on the Three Storms from Big Trouble in Little China, or that is based on an ancient Chinese archetype, like folklore. I don't know if either of you know if that's the case, or if.
So Ed Boon and John Tobias were huge fans. They grew up in the 80s. They're about our age, and they grew up in the 80s. And those are the guys that originally created the Mortal Kombat game. And they've said it 100 times before. Yeah, most of this stuff is Enter the Dragon meets Big Trouble in Little China meets. So yeah, you're seeing all these things that you're connecting as far as like ties to 80s media and film. You're 100% correct, and they've confirmed it. It's like, yeah, that is where all this stuff comes from.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. Which is awesome. And they were just like, you know, like we're fans of all that stuff, and we want to be able to kind of meld and mesh it all together to make it make sense to us. And they've done that even up to, you know, the newest video games where they've added RoboCop, and they got Peter Weller to voice him, where they've added the Terminator from, you know, the original film. They added Rambo. They put John Rambo in the video game and got Stallone to voice him. Like they're huge on their
I had no
80s
idea that
action,
they were
their
actually
80s yeah.
voiced by the original actors.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Like they went all out. Even as far as like the addition of the new Shang Tsung in the game, they went back and got Kerry Tagawa to come back from the '95 Mortal Kombat. They modeled his face after him and got him to voice all the stuff for his character. Like they've done outstanding work
amazing.
as far as keeping their lore and their fandom very tight and very close together. So I've always commended them on that. I just wish that I think the film was had a little more pizzazz. The serious aspect that they went for was kind of lost on a lot of like quick punchy jokes. Some of them were effective, and I did enjoy that. I don't know how to. I didn't hate the film. I did enjoy it for what it was. It is a total popcorn flick. I really hope that it does make enough money to be able to continue on the series, because it would be really fun to see more of these. And I said since the beginning, at best, if I get a great gory martial arts flick, I'll be fucking happy. So here I am defending Mortal Kombat because there's a lot of people out there shitting on it right now.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anybody's shitting on it. Like, I mean, maybe that's, some fans will, but I mean, I don't know. I thought, again, knowing nothing about it, like particularly, I really liked the score by, I think his name is Benjamin Wallfish. He also did Blade Runner 2049 and It.
He did.
The score had a classic kind of overture feeling, or, dramatic, but then it mixed it with that kind of Mortal Kombat 90s, like techno or whatever you want to call it, anthemic techno, and none of it sounded dated. It was, I like that. I loved the sequence with the lizard where it was like invisible, and then whoever like stabs the fucking flare into it, so then it was like half visible. The flare. I thought that was super cool. I think the jokes you're referring to primarily come from Josh Lawson's Kano, and some of them, I thought were, ooh, zing. And then there was a point where it's like, I felt like he was like, there were staccato joke, and it was like, okay, fucking calm down. Like, and that's where I think you said it kind of took away a little bit from the dramatic, whatever they were trying to build. And I loved, I forget the name of the character, but the fucking fire dragon. Oh, that was awesome.
Oh, Liu Kang's, Luke Kang does the fire dragon.
All the CG was fine. I mean, there were a few moments like the lizard. There was a moment, but that, like, whatever that 4-armed Hulk looking thing is,
Goro, even Goro
looked great. It looked as good as a Marvel movie. So they spent their money wisely. I think there will probably be a sequel at least, and I think they could. Look, the writing credits for this are. Based on the video game by John Tobias and Ed Boon, story by Greg Russo, Oren Uziel, David Callahan, who he's a writer on Shang-Chi that's coming out from Marvel, Godzilla, nice. Wonder Woman 1984, The Expendables, Zombie. So he's obviously been around, and then Russo as well. He's just Mortal Kombat, which is fine. Oren Uziel, 10 Cloverfield Lane. No, I'm sorry, the Cloverfield Experiment or Paradox, whatever the fuck it was called. But so anyway, I feel like the fact that Boone and Tobias are still somewhat involved, I guess. It seems like what you said about how they keep their lore and their fandom tight. I think this is trying to do the same thing. So I think if it continues to do that, and it has a platform like HBO Max, it could do well, and you could see, it could get better. So, and some people probably be like, I thought this was the fucking horror vision. This isn't a horror. Here's, both of you said to me, like, I said, hey, we all watched this. I watched it today because I knew you guys watch it. Like, let's lead with this. And because, we've kind of gotten away from that, since it's hard to do that because we don't gather anymore. And,
yeah.
And you were both like, well, but is it a horror movie? And I mean, I thought the same thing, but here's where in my head I put it together. It's part of horror is exploitation, and this is a modern big budget exploitation movie, because this is just any exploitation sleaze movie from the fucking late 70s, 80s, except with a fucking massive budget and a platform pushing it to everybody on earth. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely relevant to our purview, and you guys agreed, and we were all happy to talk about it. So I think the overlap with the fandom is there. Like, I don't think anybody, I wasn't, if you guys hadn't watched it, I probably wouldn't have watched it, but it worked out. So if there's a horror fan out there that's like, dude, you're wasting my time, we got some other stuff coming up right after this that is definitely not horror adjacent. It's fucking horror. So hold your horses.
Well, I think that you're right about that, but I think the other thing too is that I think the majority of people that are out there that probably play the game are very much got people like Anthony that are like
horror fans. They're
horror fans. I mean, the reason that that game is gory as fuck.
Yeah,
and there's a
and the movie was gory
of horror. Yeah, and there's a whole segment of horror that is people that are all about gore and about blood and guts, and this film has it. It definitely has it. It definitely doesn't hold back on that. It was one of the things I liked about it.
Dude,
I think my overall feeling. Oh, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was gonna just say my overall feeling about the film is I enjoyed it. I thought it was definitely a step up especially from the last film. The production design is good. Like, it definitely, you like you said, they definitely spent the money in the right places, and they made it look well, and they made it look polished, and nothing looks cheesy or terrible, or is going to appear like 10 years down the road. You're going to watch it and go, oh my God, they just used paintings for that. What the hell is that?
Right.
No, it looks great. My one thought was that when it was over, I wondered to myself how I would have felt watching in a theater. Like,
I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah. You think so? I wonder about that. That's the only thing I was like, I wonder if I would have still enjoyed it as much.
What do you think, Anthony?
If I had to plunk down like the $13-14 to go watch it in a theater and made like an evening of it, like, would I have been like happy having spent the $14-15 to sit down and watch it? I think so. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think so, because that cinematic experience has been lacking for the last year, and myself being a big fan of A, the film series, and B, the video games, like it's just something that's much like Godzilla, that's like so ingrained in me. Like, I need that theatrical experience. And though, yes, it was just kind of anticlimactic to finish it at home and be like, well, that's the end of my night. I turn off the TV and I go back to my life, instead of I'm leaving the theater. I have time to, I'm taking the time to soak in the film. Like, it's just, I don't know. I think that that aspect is gone. But as far as, but just to touch on what you guys were talking about a little earlier about, you want to see something fucking horrific. My main character that I play as, Kung Lao, does something in this movie that is so fucked up.
Yeah,
and the camera does not shy away from it.
It was awesome.
I was very impressed. I was very impressed by that one.
Yeah,
wow.
There's some gnarly shit that happens in here, and I will give it that. I congratulate and commend these guys on not shying away from the violence. The camera does not get pulled.
Nope.
You see some fucked up shit in here, and it's solid. So yeah, in retrospect, after watching the movie, I think I would have definitely benefited from a theatrical experience. But as an overall, from what we have to work with right now from home, like, I still had a really fun time, and I think that charged atmosphere of like being in the theater with all these other people that are like-minded, and brought their girlfriends that are completely annoyed that they're there. Like, you miss that experience, and I think you need that a little bit more. And I think that would have charged up a lot more. But like I said, still a solid experience, still a fun popcorn film, and I do recommend it. So thumbs up from me.
Just the other thing about leave it, like the way you said, you finish the movie, you turn it off, and you're in your living room instead of kind of leaving the theater. And when you leave the theater, you've been in an altered state controlled by a form of media that is in high def surrounds, like the whole room you're in and everybody around you it's like a temple to that, right? So it possesses you for 2 hours or whatever. So when you leave a theater, you have to acclimate back to reality. It's not just hit a button, the TV goes off, turn off your lamp and go to bed, or walk out to the kitchen and get a snack, whatever the case may be. So there is something about that. Think about coming up from deep underwater. I always think about theaters like this, where it's like, you don't just like shoot to the top and like, get up on the boat. You have to go through this like depressurization. And I always feel like that's when I leave the room of the theater and I'm walking through the lobby, talking to whoever I'm with and like, oh, did you like the movie? What about that? And then you make your way across past the snack bar and concessions and whatever, and you go out the doors, and then the night air hits you for the first time, or afternoon, whatever it is. But it's like you're passing through these different like realms to get back to your life, and there's a depressurization that happens, and you don't have that now with any film. And this would have been one that would have really benefited from it. And the other thing is like I had like other shit around me. Like at one point, like I text Ray, call me so we could set this up. And then he called me and I paused it. And like that all took away from the movie, where I think it would have been a lot more powerful. I mean, it wouldn't have made it a better movie, but it would have been a better experience if I had just been sitting in a theater for 2 hours. But whatever. I mean, we can do what we can do right now. So
That's a good call. I didn't think, you know what? I forgot about the whole concept of like, you're going to be there and it's going to be like-minded people. And you get energy from the rest of the crowd.
yeah.
That's a
Oh,
very
the
good
room
call,
would have went
Anthony.
nuts at the scene that you're talking about.
Yeah.
It would have been
That's a good
people
call.
screaming. It would have been awesome. Well, so I mean, I think this gets, a thumbs up for me as well. I mean, it
Yeah.
didn't change my life, but I certainly, if you want to have a good time and watch some gory, mindless fighting fun, this is the ticket. So, guys, what else have we seen? Ray, what do you want to start it off? What do you got?
Sure, I'll start off. Well, let's see. I think I'll start. Okay, I'll start with Don't Panic. I watched. It came on. It's on Shutter now.
So your
Started with
article
the
hit
end of the
today.
month.
So tell people about your article.
Oh, okay. Well, I have it. No, the latest Cinema article is a double feature of Don't Panic with the movie Doom Asylum. And it's the pairing is not one is a possession film, one is a slasher. But it's literally because they're what the fucks. They're total what the fuck watching. It's like Don't Panic is a pretty run-of-the-mill possession movie. His kid has a 17th birthday. His friends sneak in after the party's over. He's like, his mom's gone to bed. He's like trying to clean up the house before he goes to bed. And they have with them a Ouija board, and they pretty much dare him to have use the Ouija board to have like a seance. And one of his friends has brought the girl that he likes, and he, because at first he's like, no, it's not, I don't want to do it, not cool. So they're like, they show that the girl's there, and of course he kind of gets goaded into it. So his friend decides to try and summon a demon named Virgil, and nothing happens. Well, a few days later, he starts having nightmares about someone killing off his friends, and it happens to be that one of his friends has become possessed by Virgil. It's pretty run of the mill, but what sets it apart is how bizarre some of the choices are that it makes. It was filmed in Mexico, and it has a kind of a little bit of a quality of like an Italian film, in that the voices, like the acting, it has got, some of the actors are clearly dubbed, others are clearly like just saying their lines. But also like there's a sequence, it's like a 20-minute sequence where he just has this like date where he and his crush skip school and go on like this day together. And it's like weird. It's like, it's totally like a romantic comedy. Like they're like, getting like their pictures drawn on this, on like a boardwalk and things like that. And then like at one point his friend gives him a rose to give to her, and it's very romantic and flowery. And then it goes,
aren't they even
back
on
to the
paddle
plot.
boats at some point?
Yes, the paddle boats. I forgot about the paddle boats. And then it goes back to the regular movie. And at that point, it then has other weird decisions. So whenever he has these visions, because he stops having dreams and starts having visions, or prefaced by headaches. Whenever he has the visions that the demon is going to kill somebody, his eyes turn red, and he can only see what the demon is doing, or kind of. Because then he, like, of course, leaves his room and has to try and stop the demon from killing whoever it's going to kill. There's a whole sequence, and it's a pretty good length of film in the movie. It's only like a 90-minute movie. I feel like it's 20, 30 minutes where it happens, where he leaves his home and he's wearing pajamas. And these aren't like just pajamas. These are like kitty pajamas.
Yeah.
He's a 17-year-old man and he's wearing like kitty pajamas. Like it's got like the sweater top with the cuffs on like the bottom of the
and like
the
a T-Rex on
the
it.
sleeve. Yes, it's got like dinosaur.
It's
got
that's on the
dinosaurs
poster
on
too.
it.
That's on the cover art.
Yes.
That's
And
really
then he's
bizarre.
just running around trying to stop this demon. And you're like, what is this? And yeah, it's so odd that I think that that's why they put it on the poster. So the movie has the distinction of like, otherwise it would be like, oh, what's this? But it's like The Room in that, like, I feel like, and the same goes for Doom Asylum. I've talked about it on here before. That is one of those films that, like, if you can get a group of people together, and really right now, like, we're all getting back. Hopefully, we're all getting vaccinated. Hopefully, you know, restrictions are lessening where you live. You can hopefully get some friends together, go out to someone's home, sit there, and all watch it, and like just heckle the shit out of it, and
Maybe
have fun
smoke some
and just
glue.
laugh.
Yeah.
That helps. Whatever helps. Drink a lot of beers. This is a beer, pizza, wings movie.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you just sit there and they're like, oh my god, he's in his pajamas. This is crazy. Like, just laugh at it as you're watching, because that's the whole point of that film.
I watched some of it, and the other day just so I could speak to it, and I fell asleep. It was an afternoon, you know, but I gotta say, like, you had told me it was filmed in Mexico and that they tried to pass it off as the States, and I had to correct you because I'm like, no, dude. Like, somebody, as they're leaving the party before the friends with the Ouija board show back up, somebody's like, is this your first birthday in Mexico? All right, dude. And I'm like,
I didn't even catch that.
I'm like, wait a minute. Because so they're in Mexico, but everybody he interacts with is Caucasian. Like, it's like this enclave of Americans that have, like, that are wealthy or upper middle class that left like the States and now live in Mexico and have a high school and
it doesn't
their
make
own little
any
community.
sense. Like,
And
I don't even understand how, like, while he's running around trying to, I'm like, at one point he runs into the cops, and how come the cops don't get out of the cop car and start talking to him in Spanish? Then they're speaking English.
It's so weird.
So
and then
bizarre.
Like that, you know, I don't think people will understand, you know, when you talk about that date sequence, you've seen things like that in horror movies before, but this is literally like 15 or 20 minutes long. Like, it just keeps going. I'm like, what in the fuck am I watching?
Yes.
And
you're
then,
like, this is a 90-minute movie. What are you doing?
Here's what I think happened. I think they shot in Mexico because it was, you know, within their means or whatever. There was some affordability to it, and realized that because all those scenes in that date, you know, when they're kibitzing around, getting their drawing and their panel, everybody around them is clearly Mexican, right? So I think that they were like, well, we can't pass this off as being in the States, so let's just like go with it. But like, I need an explanation. It's just weird. But you know what? I mean, it seemed like it would, like, I'm not going to go back to it until we can gather and watch it, like at a Cineray in your backyard. That's where it's going to shine. It's going to be a lackluster viewing sitting by myself, you know, so, you know, whatever. But yeah, it was, I'm glad you watched it, because I saw it drop and didn't know anything about it. So,
well, I think, I don't know what it is about me. I admittedly, like, I go for cheese. I go for, like,
dude, that's,
you know,
that's totally fine.
If it's like, if you do something unique and like entertaining, and like, I'll just keep trying. I texted Anthony famously got what was that other film? Shivers, and I tried to I started it, and then I was like, but then I went back to it and I finishing it. It has its own unique charm. It's like it's a real work of like cheese and madness. Is the best way I think to put it. What would you say, Anthony?
As far as Shivers goes?
Yeah, sure. Just that.
Or Don't Panic. I haven't seen.
Did you see Don't Panic?
I have not seen Don't
Shivers.
No, Shiver's fucking cool, man. It's
First
fucking
Cronenberg.
Cronenberg. It's fucking
First-
Cronenberg,
Yeah.
It's motherfucking Cronenberg. It's got weird shit in it. And
MFC,
it's,
baby. MFC.
yeah, it's got just enough like campy shit to keep you kind of like uncomfortably laughing, but it's fucking Cronenberg.
So Anthony, what do you got?
I watched the documentary Hail Satan ? On
Hulu. Been meaning to
on
watch
Hulu,
this.
which is on Hulu. I've been trying to see it for years now, and I just haven't been able to track it down. And then I remember when it was available on Prime, I was like, I don't feel like renting this. And then now it's for free on Hulu, but if you're paying for the service, it's not free. But it's interesting how it kind of shows the rise of the different sects of Satanism that have kind of melded together to become what the Temple of Satan is today, which is kind of more politically charged and not as theatrical and go girl party as the Church of Satan was
Right.
when LaVey was running things,
Right.
and it was more hedonistic and very, it was almost fun.
Yeah.
And now from the viewpoints that are expressed during this documentary, you see how everybody seems to be trying to push their own political agendas through the Temple of Satan, and it's very like what's the word I'm looking? It's very edgelord. Everybody's wearing black and cloaks and all this. Come on, a lot of modern Satanists don't dress like they're going to a D&D gathering, which is funny. It's mentioned in the documentary about how a lot of people kind of get introduced to this school of thought. You're either introduced to it via heavy metal music at a certain age, or even through Dungeons and Dragons at some point. And then it touches on Satanic Panic back in the late 70s and 80s. It's a decent documentary. I laughed out loud a couple times. So I mean, if you guys got Hulu, I do recommend it. It's pretty cool. But I mean, some of these leaders, like the temple leaders, are pretty laughable at times, and it's just like, come on, like this is it's almost like the political I guess viewpoints that they're pushing are now the theatrical elements, and it's almost so ludicrous at times where it's just like, okay, I don't really know what much else to say on it, but it was a fun doc.
The temple, so there's a definite like ideological split between the Church of Satan, which is kind of like really publicly, at least it's definitely since the days of LaVey and that kind of like theatrical circus atmosphere where Hollywood was involved, Jane Mansfield famously, and blah blah blah.
Exactly.
They're kind of in the background, and the temple is very different, like you said. And I remember when The Witch came out, the temple, and specifically Jex Blackmore, who I don't know what exactly he is as far as his position within or rank within the temple, but they like held screenings for that movie because they said, and I just looked up the quote, like the themes in the film mirror the things we talk about in our work. It's a criticism of theocratic patriarchal society and a fair representation of the stresses that puts on a community. And I always thought that was pretty intelligent. I find Satanism really fascinating. I'm not a Satanist, but I definitely have always thought, people think that Satanism is about worshiping the devil, and it's not. It's about worshiping yourself and just saying like, well, Christianity tells you, to turn the other cheek and don't covet, your neighbor's wife and this and that. And we just say like, you have urges because that you're human, and so go with them. And I think, I mean, some of that's selfish and stupid. Some of it's interesting and not, illogical.
but also to
I-
like indulge in the wants in your life that make you happy and not be,
Yeah. Well,
stifled by,
Christianity,
exactly.
they make pleasures a bad thing, and they're not. I mean, you don't want to hurt other people, but at the same time, I mean, this idea that you're going to go to hell because you jerked off. I mean, okay, well, I don't know. See you guys
What?
there. First you're hearing about it. Okay. Oh, you don't want to know about premarital sex. Damn.
Oh,
But I mean, I have wanted to see that documentary, and I'm glad you put it back on my radar, because it's been on my Hulu queue for I don't know, since it hit Hulu, and I don't go on Hulu very often, so I forgot about it. So cool.
yeah, give it a gander.
All right.
I've been meaning to check it out. It definitely looked interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember, like, the thing that I find fascinating when it comes to Satanism is the separation between what traditionally people are taught and people are told, especially like stemming from like the 80s and like devil worship and things like that. Is the surprise that you when you look into it more is that it's exactly what you're talking about. And like there's people that are like, some people I've heard about people that there is a lot of heavy metal aspect, there's a lot of like the different books and things like that. I giggled to myself when you said that, Anthony, because I was like, somewhere Kenneth Unger's like, how come nobody's come to Satanism because of me?
Yeah.
I mean, because his whole, I don't know if you've seen any of his whole short films, but especially his film Lucifer Rising ties into the whole thing of like how it's not really it's more Bahamut, or it's Set. It's not like the Egyptian god, and not like the Lucifer, the devil that is in Christian.
Yeah, I mean, it's all so ridiculous.
Concept,
that idea.
yeah.
The Christian devil is basically John Lovitz in the red suit. I mean, really, like that's how and I've said this a million times. I've probably said on here before, but like you really look at Christianity and you I mean, hey, I have nothing against Christians. Whatever works for you, as long as you're a good person, that's totally cool. It's totally cool. But I was raised Lutheran. I'm not a Christian now. And I just say, like, I find it really suspect about Christianity that like the bad guy is the guy that showed up and was like, hey, you can put on clothes and read a book. You don't have to be stupid and naked. And he's the bad guy. He's like the ultimate bad guy. Is just, here's some knowledge. Like, what does that tell you about their God? He wants you to be stupid. So, and I mean, really, it's reflected in a lot of the way organized Christianity works. So, and Satanism.
But what
I've heard it
failed
before.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I've heard it said before. If you really want a book, and I'm not a fan, but if you want a book that kind of is the basic tenets of Satanism, Ayn Rand. There you go, Fountainhead. Atlas Shrugged. I mean, she's kind of an idiot, but I mean, she's whatever. Anyway, I'm saying, Anthony, go ahead.
No, but we just forget like the rebellion in heaven and the Lucifer's fall, the fall was centered around the fact that he didn't like humans. He didn't like that God created and loved humans more so than angels. So when the idea or notion of people worshiping Satan came around, it was one of those things. It was like, you realize he doesn't like you, right? So then it ultimately changes. Like, well, no, it's about rebellion, and that's more or less what we center our beliefs around: rebellion against other established religions and tenets that kind of hold us back, especially the ones that stifle pleasure or anything, any other
patriarchal theocracy. Yeah,
exactly. So, but
it's funny.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, to speak to the concept of like following things. Like, I have a friend, I know someone who actually is a Satanist, and on Facebook he'll typically post these things from the Satanic Bay Area church, the Daily Bahamation, listen to the voice that tells you, this is one for example, listen to the voice that tells you you're better than these circumstances is probably correct. Enjoy the distress of your enemies. Life owes you. Like, it's things like that. Like, you know, like there, it's not necessarily like, you know, like if you want to just kill somebody, but like, you know, if somebody dies that you dislike and you feel good about it, don't feel bad
Yeah,
about
I always
feeling
do.
good. That's, you know,
My
it's not
great grandfather's dog, I hated it, but when he kicked off, I was fucking elated.
But that's a perfect example. Like, it's funny because like he's you'd think because he's a Satanist and he's public Satanist, he's gonna be like, oh, everything's gonna be dark and evil. But like
No.
he had a thing one day where he posted, and I don't know how, like pretty open-minded church. They got a local church to team up with them, and they had a food drive. And it had this great poster where it was Jesus on the cross, like giving a thumbs up and smiling at this devil standing there next to him with a pitchfork, and they were collecting food for people.
That's cool. I like that.
So I mean, he's a really cool, charitable guy, but he just doesn't like the hypocrisy of modern Christianity, and that's part of what drives people there. Is just
Yeah, right.
you know, there's a lot of problems in modern Christianity.
Yeah, there
And
are.
I mean, and I consider myself a Christian, and like, yeah, I have issues. I have issues.
I'm gonna switch gears.
Not a problem. Well, you have to say
Travis-
something you've watched.
Travis Stevens. So he did largely a producer before. A year or two ago, he did The Girl on the Third Floor. We all watched it and had an episode where he talked about it. I mean, I didn't love it, but I liked it. I had some issues with it. His new movie is Jacob's Wife, Larry Fessenden and Barbara Crampton. Right there, if you told me Pee Wee Herman directed it, I would be there for Fessenden and Crampton. It's marvelous. It's a $6 rental on Prime right now. Basic setup is small town. Fessenden's a minister. Crampton's his wife, and it's the kind of relationship where she's very supporting of him. He's kind of the center of the community, so she's kind of always like not his priority, and he also talks over her a lot. So you'll see dinners where they're at a dinner with some friends or family, and people are expressing their opinions about something, and she'll say something, and he'll kind of just, oh yeah, but okay, you know, before she's even able to make her point. So she's kind of a, you know, subservient wife, and she gets bitten by a vampire. And dude, the vampire is played by Bonnie Aarons. So this is great. She also played more recently the nun, which I didn't see, but she's the nun character. But she also played the fucking dumpster bum in Mulholland Drive.
Oh wow.
Yes. So, which is still one of the like weirdest. I've seen that movie. I couldn't even tell you how many times. I've never freeze framed on it because I feel like that's cheating. Because, you know, Mulholland Drive is kind of like a nightmare in a way. So you can't freeze frame your nightmares. So I kind of approach Lynch's works like that too. I don't freeze frame things. It's just like, if I need to get a better look, I got to watch it again and pay closer attention. But that is something like, I still don't know what I'm looking at when I see that, even though I've seen it like a dozen times. So I love that. But she's great. It's a very Nosferatu kind of vampire. They bring back the rats, you know, where it's implied that she moves. It's like a whole bunch of rats. And I guess the idea that like, why is this Nosferatu in a small town? I guess in the modern age, they don't really even address this, but what I've kind of was thinking about was, I guess maybe this is how these things now have to operate, where like it's almost invisible moving through these small towns because people wouldn't believe in it. And it's, you know, I don't know, it's a really interesting setup. But yeah, so Crampton gets bitten and she starts going through this change, and it empowers her. And so then she kind of becomes her own woman as she's becoming a vampire. And then it ultimately leads to a like kind of a relationship showdown between her and her minister. He's not a priest, he's a minister. Her and her minister husband, Fessenden. And I absolutely fucking loved it. Yeah, I mean, everybody involved is great. And I think it's in theaters right now too. And I think it opened, I mean, I don't think anything opens wide right now because of the situation with the pandemic, but whatever's open, I feel like it might actually be in like, you know, theaters near people. So if you're into going to the theater right now, you know, look it up. It would be great in the theater too. So otherwise, Prime $6 rental, totally worth it.
Oh, who's up?
Ray, what do you got?
I'll bring this up real quick. I gave a rewatch to a couple older films, and one was The Blob, and the other one was The Hidden. The Blob because I got my Blu-ray copy from a sale on Scream Factory, Shout Factory, and I wanted to see how it looked, and it's fantastic. It's a great looking disc. So if you're out there and you're hedging on whether or not to buy the 1989 or is it 88 Blob,
88.
it's totally worth
88.
it. It looks spectacular. I haven't watched any of the extras yet, but it does look fantastic. Like, it's one of those that the transfer is so good that I think the only thing that you're going to be like, well, that doesn't look so good. I think it's just the technology of the time. Like you're seeing like some of the, you know, the camera quality and things like that. Some of the graininess, but I think it looks great, and the film is so much fun and such a good movie. It's worth owning, I think. And The Hidden, I just gave a rewatch because I thought, oh, I haven't watched that in a while, and I own it, and I just rewatched it. Man, I fucking love that movie. It's so good. It's so worth a watch. If you're out there, and I think I mentioned it too because I posted about it on our group chat on Facebook, and I had more than a few people who were like, "Oh, I haven't watched that yet." It's worth a watch. Check it out. It's fun. It is. It's like a buddy cop movie meets sci-fi alien possession, and it's great. Like it's fantastic. The action's great, and I mean, how many other 80s films do you get Kyle MacLachlan starring in? And he's good. He's great. I love that movie. So can't speak enough good things about it. But yeah,
I definitely need to see that one. You lent me the Blob one, so I'm going to get to that soon. I've seen it. I watched it a couple of years ago and was like, oh man, this is like so good.
Yeah.
It's funny. Well, no, I don't want to go into a spoiler, but you said something to me the other day in conversation that the exact same thing you said about how somebody dies and then somebody else kind of takes over. I just heard Joe Lynch say to Bret Easton Ellis on the new episode of the Bret Easton, like the exact. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like same thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, The Hidden, that's been on my list for a while, and I thank you for putting it back on my radar, because back in the day, like 90s, when I had I subscribed to Wrapped in Plastic, the Twin Peaks David Lynch magazine. They did a cover story on that movie, but back
really?
then, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never seen it. I forgot about it, so I wouldn't.
Oh, it's great.
Cool.
The Blob, I haven't seen in a few years. Well, the 88 version, the last time I saw it, Ray came by my place, my old apartment, and we watched it one evening. And that's the last time I saw it. But since then, it'd been released by a Shout Factory, and I heard it's got all the cool bells and whistles and stuff. I own it. I bought it on a recent sale as well. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how they scrubbed that thing up and made it look better.
That's cool.
Yeah, it looks great, and it's. Oh man, it is gory fun. That scene is amazing.
Yeah. We've talked to Anthony talked about that on the show and how it's kind of a gag.
It's the one fucking. It's like one of the first times I saw a horror movie where I was like scared shitless, and it was that scene that's still like the most fucking horrifying to me. Yeah, I don't want to go out that way.
No, fuck no. Ugh. What do you got, Anthony?
Today I had a chance to sit down and read Winnebago Graveyard from Steve Niles and Allison Sampson. Allison Sampson also did all the artwork on it. It is a quick, I think it was like a four, five, maybe four issues.
I think
4 issues in 2018 or 2017. I'm sorry,
something like that.
Yeah, but a trade came out I think a year ago, maybe a year or two ago. first time I'd heard about it, I do like Niles. I like me some Niles. I follow his work, and I've followed his works for many years now. This one is one that got past me. The art style in this is fucking incredible. It is beautifully colored, beautifully drawn. The story's very quick, very punchy, to the point. There's not a lot of fucking around. It's like you get to one, you start in one spot, you're in danger and peril like almost immediately.
Yeah.
And real quick synopsis: just a family is on a road trip and they're Winnebago, hence the fucking title of the story. And they stop by this little roadside carnival, and they come out of the carnival. Winnebago is gone, and they are now trapped in a town full of Satanists that are hunting them down to, sacrifice them to bring back their dead, basically. And to
and this is not the Satanists we were just talking about that are like civilized and
Yeah.
political, and this is like cloaks, torches, and fucking blood sacrifice.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. There's demon summoning and just gore galore. It's a really fun little book.
Yeah.
Not very dialogue heavy. Like I said, but you're looking at majority of the artwork tells the story for you, and it's done exceptionally well. I had a really good time. It only took me, a good 35 minutes to run through the trade, and I loved every second of it. It was fucking fantastic.
I knew you would.
Yeah, it's outstanding. I pulled this off the shelf earlier this week, I think, and I can't believe that it's taken me till today to read it. I should have read it immediately. It's fucking fantastic. And it sucks that I let this one slip by me on its initial run, but it's a great fucking book. I recommend it to a lot of anybody who wants to, have a good time with these kinds of stories, these like survival type horror stories, done by a comic or trade. Fucking jump on this one. This one's fantastic.
Yeah, agreed.
Steve Niles, everybody knows him for 30 Days of Night and Freaks of the Heartland, that kind of stuff. And Alison Sampson, I think she did some work on I think it was one of the Civil Wars. I'm not sure which one it was, but so she's notable. She's been around. But this is it's a good book. I highly recommend it.
Glad you dug it. I like that one quite a bit. I need to dig out my I bought it monthly when it came out. I need to dig them out and reread it because I haven't reread it since then, but I really liked it. All right. Recent obsession. Watched it in about a week and a half. It's just Servant. Now, this is a series on Apple TV Plus. I don't understand Apple TV at all. Not at all. So I think I have a subscription now, not because I signed up, but because I had to buy a new computer. So I don't know what to tell people. Like, I don't know if you, like, I know Anthony, you said you have it because it came bundled with Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can just go to Prime, add it as an option, pay a la carte. I'm sure you probably can, but I don't know. Anyway, they're doing original programming. Servant is produced by M. Night Shyamalan. But it was created by Tony Bascalup. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Man, I went through this show. Kirsten and I just absolutely fucking loved it. So the cast is fantastic. First of all, you've got Lauren Ambrose, who was Claire on 6 Feet Under. I know she's worked since then. I haven't seen her in anything since then. So, and I love that. I loved Claire. Like, I kind of had a crush on her, but she was just a great fucking character. So it's, cool to see her. Toby Kebbell. I didn't realize who he was. He's the father. So they're husband and wife, right? He was Johnny Quid in Rock and Rolla, among other things, but like that blew me away because I knew I recognized him, but it's been a while. So here's the setup. They live in Philadelphia, I think it is. It looks like New York. It's those brownstones. She's a news reporter, like a TV news woman, and he's a chef. He works from home, but like sports teams pay him to travel with them for like a week so that they can eat his food. Or he's a judge on some kind of smaller version of, it's like The Voice for cooking or whatever, one of these cooking shows. And so they're wealthy, and they have a child. The show starts with they have hired a nanny. So Nell Tiger Free shows up as Leanne. She's the nanny. She's very wallflower, like, hunched posture, kind of, looking down very, oh, hello, blah, 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 Mrs. Turner, Mr. Turner. And they're like, oh, so their baby, they've hired her to watch the baby because Dorothy, who's Lauren Ambrose, is going back to work. And so the baby's Jericho. So she's going to stay there, blah, blah, blah. So as soon as Dorothy leaves, Sean, the husband, approaches Nell Leanne, and it's like, okay, look, we should talk about this. You're paid through the month. You don't have to act when she's gone. She goes to work. You could just enjoy yourself. Go out, you're not from around. She's from Wisconsin, go out, see the city, whatever. And she doesn't, she kind of looks at him like he's, what? And she's like, okay. And then she goes into the room and like, I'm going to give him a bath now. And he's like, what the fuck? And what you find out is, and this isn't a spoiler, this is a setup. I think anybody that's heard about the show has heard this. They lost the child after like 13 days or something like that. The baby's dead. And Dorothy had like a complete snap with reality based on it because of the circumstances that they get into later. So they gave her one of these like real life baby dolls to try and bring her, and it brought her out of it. So she acts like it's a fucking real baby, and it's not. The thing's real creepy looking too. I guess Kirsten was saying they have like water in them or something, so they kind of jiggle like a baby. I mean, it's when you're looking at it the first time, you're like, wait, that's not a baby, right? But so the fucking nanny treats it like she takes it, puts it in a stroller and takes it out for the walks, and the husband's like, what the fuck? Now I got 2 crackpots? Like, I understand my wife, but what the fuck? And then the first episode ends where he's home alone, with the baby, and the fucking baby monitor, he hears a baby crying. He goes upstairs and the fucking baby is there. And you have that's all I'm going to say, other than I love the cast of this show so much. And it's a total mystery, like puzzle box show. You do not know what the fuck is going on. We watched, I think there are 10 episodes a season. They're short and sweet. They're like between 25 and 35 minutes each. They don't feel too short. They don't feel too long. They feel just right. A lot of times I'm like, I can't believe that was only 30 minutes. Dorothy's brother, Lauren Ambrose's brother, is played by Rupert Grint. He's Julian. He's the redheaded kid from the Harry Potter movies. Dude, he's amazing. He is fucking amazing. Him and the husband. It's so funny because the people I know that watch the show at work that recommend it to me, they hate them. And I love them because like the husband's the only one, he's constantly like, the fuck is wrong with everybody? Like things will happen and he'll be like, what do you mean? Like, and he's just kind of a dick, but like, it just I don't know, it works for the show. And then Rupert Grint's character is just, he's just, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. He's obviously an alcoholic. He's got some other underlying substance abuse issues, and he's just fucking funny. So the show is funny in a way that's like, I think some people won't get it, but I think a lot of people that would, probably be listening to this show will definitely get it. I don't know. I like whatever the mythology is they're creating. I have no frame of reference for it. I kept saying to Kirsten, like, what I love about the show? I have no fucking clue what's going to happen. I have no frame of reference for this. It's unlike anything plot wise I've ever seen before. So I can't fucking wait for it to come back. I started it late, so I got it right after the second season came out, but unfortunately now I have to wait for a third, so that sucks, but whatever. Highest recommendation I can give something on TV. It's immediately in like my top 5 shows of all time. I absolutely fucking loved it. If like me, I'm not a Shyamalan fan. I think he's got his moments, and I'm all for him making a comeback or whatever. I have no interest in fucking Split or Glass or any of that bullshit. And I'm not saying they're bad. The last thing I need is a shared superhero universe by that guy. He's, I think he's very talented. It's just most of his stuff outside of a few, whatever. But he's not. Don't hold him against the show, because he's just the producer. He directs a couple episodes, but it's this I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but Tony Bascalup, and he was involved in Berlin Station and Outcast, which is Robert Kirkman's show about his take on possession. That didn't last, but also like 24, which I never had any interest in. But so, I mean, he's got a pedigree, and this is his opus so far. I just really, I think this show is something special. So boom.
I'm trying to see how this would fit into like my top shows, like Bosom Buddies and what's the other one? The one with Balky, Perfect Strangers.
Perfect Stranger. Well,
maybe,
okay. First of all, Bosom Buddies is Peter
Yeah.
Scolari, and that's that's holy ground. So
Small Wonder, like that's more my league,
yeah, fair enough.
Real quick,
Maybe a
Shout
little out of
Factory's
this
got
world.
Yeah, Shout Factory's got a couple of movies coming out. They just announced 4 flicks. One of them is Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Ooh, I haven't seen
famously
that in
directed.
years.
Yeah, it's a fantastic fucking same guy that went and directed Silent Hill. And then they also announced Dead Zone. So Dead Zone's coming out here stateside. And they've got 8-Legged Freaks. Or if you like creepy, if you like giant spiders, there it is. And one more flick. What was it? Sorry. It was it's House of Wax, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it was the one with the one with what's her face.
Oh,
The rich one.
Yeah.
Anything for Jackson got announced for Blu-ray, so that's coming out
good.
soon.
Who's putting that out?
It's that RJL something or RLJE. Yeah, RLJE. They're finally putting out anything for Jackson. I was kind of waiting on this one. I was kind of scared it wasn't going to come out. So I'm really, really stoked that one's coming out. Santa Sangre just came out. I think there's a 4K for that just dropped from.
shit! Yeah, I gotta get
who's
that.
From Severin. I think it's Severin. They just put that out.
Also, just on the Severin tip, they announced for July, and I mentioned this to Anthony recently. This is going to be a Cinere viewing for fucking sure, and I've pre-ordered it. I used to have it on DVD, and I don't anymore. So now it's going to be on a Blu-ray. They're doing Skinned Deep, which is just fucking. I feel like the word bonkers gets tossed around a lot, and sometimes I'm not really sure if it's being overdone. But this is Gabriel Bertalos directed it. It was part of the Fangoria Gore Zone flicks that came out in like 2004 or 5, something like that. It's fucking insane. Texas Chainsaw Massacre set up, people out of their element in the Deep South, blah, blah, blah. But like Warwick Davis plays this character Plates that like has a white suit and like a sheath he throws plates at people, like ceramic plates. It's like the weirdest shit. There's a character, the Surgeon General, which is on the cover. It's like this, like his mouth looks like a bear trap. I don't know. It's fucking weird as fuck. So that's coming too from Severin. Ray, what do you got?
Yeah, I actually probably got it going, but real quick. Last night there was another Last Drive-In. It's this 3rd season. And I got an opportunity to finally see Audition.
Same.
I'm not going to go into the ending, and because if you're listening to this and you have not seen it, and no one has spoiled it for you, go watch it.
If you're listening to this, it's probably been spoiled. It's still worth watching. I never watched it because I thought that there was no point knowing the turn.
Well,
I owned it for 10 years and I never watched it.
If you get I feel like the ending is not just what the infamy that it has grown, because there's a couple things in there that threw me for a loop. There were curveballs in there that I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. That was cool. But yeah, that one, it got me. Man, it's one of those movies where it builds on its last sequence, on literally the last 15 minutes, but it's so rare that I'm watching something and like Sean said it didn't get you know, he'd heard about it, so it didn't it didn't hit him as hard. But man, Anthony, for people at home, if you're listening, I know there's no visual, but this was, I'm going to do it for Anthony and then I'm going to describe it. I was grabbing my shirt collar and hiding myself in my shirt collar and then peeking back down watching it because it was like, it was like close to the approximation is like peeking through your fingers because it was bothering me. I was like, God, but I can't not. Oh, Jesus. Like it kept doing that to me for that last 60 minutes. And I was like, God damn, they're so rare an occurrence that happens that it struck me. And I was like, wow, that movie is crazy. And especially considering like, we were talking a little bit about this earlier today. Like Takashi Miike is, he's a journeyman director. He doesn't have a distinct style. Like you see one thing and you go, okay, I know what this is going to be like. You go, you watch Dead or Alive and you think that's going to be all of his movies. Oh, fuck no. Because then you watch Citizen Q and it's completely different. And then you watch Audition and it's totally different. And then you watch Happenings to the Katukaros and you're like, oh, and you realize like this guy can just flex himself around whatever is being presented to him and what he's directing and go, oh, this is what the tone needs to be for this one. This is what the tone needs to be for this one. And it's so crazy because most people, you get used to their style. Like when you're watching a Lynch, when you're watching a De Palma or any list of the, directors out there, you know who you're watching. With him, you're sitting there and you're like, who made this? And then someone tells you and you think like, okay, at some point there's going to be something crazy. And there usually is, but it's not always the same kind of crazy. And it's just, he can really form himself around whatever he's making. And it's impressive.
Doesn't he have something like over 100 directing credits?
Yeah.
And, I'll be honest, the films that I like from him the most are his samurai films. They're fucking ultra violent and just,
yes, I forgot about that. That was a fantastic film.
He's got a ton of them and they're fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it was cool to finally see it. And it wasn't what I expected. So, Ray, if you have to cut, I'm going to run through a couple more real quick. So if you got a bolt, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm going to see you all later.
All right.
Take care. Check out the articles, people. Feel free to leave comments. Or if you're part of the Facebook group and you see the posting, you want to say like, hey, I didn't like that, or like that was a weird selection, or even like, what about these? Feel free, reach out. Like, I want to hear what you think. I want to hear your responses. Like if you're like, God damn, that's a terrible double feature, let me know why. I'm open to it.
Definitely. Ray's motto is reach out, reach around.
Reach around, Ray. Good. All right.
Keep tugging.
Oh my God.
For the horror minge, this is Ray. I'm checking out. Keep on tugging.
Keep on tugging, says reach around, Ray. All right, dude. I'm just gonna run through a couple things really quick.
Absolutely.
Block Island Sound. It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix by the McManus brothers. These guys, they haven't done this. They've written and produced American Vandal and Cobra Kai and 13 Cameras. Only other thing they wrote and directed is Funeral Kings. I know nothing about that, but this, man, I really, really liked it a lot. It's very well made. It's it's a lower budget. They do a lot with theater of the mind, but it's basically sister goes back home. She's an adult. She goes back home. Her brother lives with her aging father, and they live. So Block Island Sound. A sound is like an ocean inlet, right? So this is East Coast, and it's a small kind of fishing community, and the father's kind of seems to be slipping into some kind of dementia, and she goes back and for something, and then when she sees this, she's telling the brother, who's just kind of like a layabout a little bit, he minimal work, drinks too much, And actually, Jim Cummings is the one of the guys he hangs out with at the bar, and the guy's a total conspiracy nut. His character is great, but she's concerned about the father because he'll just be like, she'll be talking to him, and he's just staring off into the distance. She's like, Dad, you know. And so then one night he goes out on the boat and doesn't come back, and so then they're like, well, what the fuck? And then the same thing starts happening to the brother. And what you start seeing is that they're being manipulated by something. And there at the beginning of the movie, the Jim Cummings character is talking about toxoplasmosis, which is this phenomena where people with cats, it happens where there's a certain kind of parasite that lives in cat litter that when you scoop cat litter can nest in your brain and then control you to some degree. And so take that from the macroscopic level, from the microscopic level, and now blow it up to the macroscopic, where there's something in the ocean that when they're exposed, when these humans are exposed to the water, it starts to control them. And when you start seeing the way it manifests to them, it's fucked up, man. It's not like you're not going to get a tentacle monster. I kind of thought maybe I would, but I wasn't disappointed that I didn't. I thought they did a really good job with it. Really, really good. I would like to see them do more. And their sister, Michaela, if I'm saying that right, McManus, is Audrey, one of the leads, and she's fantastic. And she looks, I kept thinking it was Toni Collette. She looks a lot like Toni Collette. So that was interesting. Then the only other thing I'll do is I started watching Them on Prime. And this is created by Little Marvin. I don't know anything about him at all. But I'm just going to say, you know, we have body horror as kind of a subgenre that we talk about a lot in the horror community. I don't know if this has been talked about before. I haven't encountered it, so I'm going to tentatively say I'm coining the term. This is cultural horror because, my God. So the basic setup is starting in the late 40s. It's a Black family in North Carolina. You see this event start to happen, but they don't actually show you the full event. And then it cuts. You can tell something terrible happened, but some time has passed, and they're moving to Compton, California. Husband's gotten a job as in engineering for a company. And the cultural horror aspect is they're moving into Compton. And at this point in time, it's like 1950 now. It's all white. And in fact, when they sign the lease, there's a thing in the lease that the real estate agent's like, oh, don't worry about that. They actually just legally overturned that, so it doesn't hold water. It literally says you cannot sell your house to anybody that's Negro. I mean, it's literally in the fucking document. It's so fucked up. And just like when they pull into town and they're all like, oh, this is going to be great. And every one of the people in the neighborhood are white, and they just all walk out and like stare at them with like wide eyes and like drop jaw, like what the fuck. And Allison Pill plays like kind of the head housewife. She was in Devs last year, and she oh man, she plays such a good terrible person. And she just cannot stand that they're there. And oh my God, Pat Healy is one of I love Pat Healy. He's one of the husbands. And, you know, it's like the first night after they move in, so the neighborhood gets together, and like the women are all in the living room, and the men are all in the garage drinking beer. And both of them are like, how do we get them out? How do we get them out? It's just so fucked up, man. It's really hard to watch. Harder to watch than the audition to me, for sure. And there is a supernatural element, and I don't know what the fuck it is. It's a total gotta see, because I have like, there's almost a Slender Man analog, but not really. And this is the 50s. I don't know. It's fucked up looking. There's definite influence from, I think, Lovecraft Country, but it's a totally different thing. It's a little bit more low key with the supernatural, I think. And so I'm 2 episodes in. It's really good. There are 10 episodes total, and I was happy to note that Ty West directs 2 of them, because I miss Ty West like so much. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely, it's a recommend for me for sure. So I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, you put it high on my list. I'm gonna be watching that very soon.
I'm telling you, man, it's, you know, I think that as the genre continues to expand and people become, you know, more open to horror being things other than just Freddy and Jason or whatever, I mean, much the same, back in the you're a metalhead like me back in, and by the way, we have a new metal podcast called Beautiful Brutality. The first episode was kind of taped accidentally because we were set out to do a horror vision, and me, you, and Tori ended up doing this. And so it's a little informal, but it's up on most platforms. It'll be on all of them if it's not already soon. I know it's on Spotify. And it's the first episode's a little bit informal. It will get more formal, but we're defining it as we go. Anyway, you're a metalhead. You remember back in the 80s, I remember reading the metal magazines, and there's just always a contingent of people that are like, if you use a keyboard, fuck you, you're not metal. And it's just such a stupid way to look at shit because, I'm just glad that died because I think of all, Blut Aus Nord, like there's so many fucking amazing, brutal metal bands that have keyboards. Like you don't have to not use keyboards. So that rigid way of thinking is there's an element of horror that was like that too. And I think that's going away. And man, horror there can even be no blood. And fuck, man, watching these people, the way they're acting towards, and which Kirsten, and she's just like, how, I just don't understand. It's so disturbing to me. It's so terrifying how anybody could ever treat another human being the way these people are treated. And these are supposedly civilized people. It's just so fucked up. So I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about what really disturbs me. And it's interesting that the audition that Ray brought that up, because I always thought that I was going to, have to hide my eyes for that too. And it just really didn't bother me. Maybe because I had just watched them and it had really bothered me in a different way. So you got anything else, man? Anything you want to talk about?
Last thing I'm going to talk about, it wouldn't be a horror vision episode if I don't bring up fucking aliens again. I
you
just
can
got
always bring up aliens,
right? So I just got a hardcover from Dark Horse, and it's the Dan O'Bannon script, which was basically, I think, star based. And so it's them recreating Alien from the original script without any of the assisted artwork from H.R. Geiger. So it's a complete like reimagining. So I haven't got into the book yet, but I am really looking forward to it to kind of see the new direction, or just pretty much the new direction that they went in as far as creating xenomorphs, et cetera, just recreating that universe without that iconic
look,
exactly, that design. So I mean, it could be bullshit. It could be crap, because I mean, we all know what our idea of what xenomorphs and facehuggers and all those things look like, from those early drawings from Geiger, and they're iconic now. So to see somebody kind of go, okay, we can't use any of that shit, like therein lies the challenge and therein lies the allure for me. Like, okay, let's see what you can do, because I just don't, I can't fathom a universe not created by Geiger. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I got that and a whole fuck ton of other books to read. But
what else did you get?
That's what I'm really excited about
now. So you've talked about this on here recently too, like because Marvel gobbled that up Fox, and now there's a moratorium on the Dark Horse books, which have been running for 30 years or so,
yeah.
And Marvel's doing their own take on it. All that Dark Horse stuff's going out of print. You have done an amazing job finding stuff, and I'm very envious of, like, I think you've really used your job where you're driving a lot, like, to your advantage and finding different places to look for stuff. And I mean, we were at a comic shop earlier today, and I saw you find, was it Rogue?
It was the Rogue series, a four issue series, and it's about a space station that is experimenting on xenomorphs and creating new hybrids. Obviously, it's Weyland-Yutani trying to weaponize, but obviously these things get loose and fuck everybody up. But this is the first time you see the Alien King introduced into the Dark Horse expanded universe. So that one's a fucking classic, and I think that one came out 95 or something like that. They're old books, man, but they're really fun. I was really excited to see those four pop up. I already own the trade on that, but you know, the artwork is killer on the covers. I was just like, man, this is going to be a great opportunity just to have all 4 issues. And I got them for what, $12.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool. Yeah,
But you
Scary's
know,
Comics in Alameda.
yeah, Scariest Comics. But yeah, slowly I've been trying to build all that stuff up. And for those who don't know about it, there's the Alien, Prometheus, and like Alien Covenant, like those 4K editions and stuff like that, they're starting to disappear. If you look on Amazon, the prices are starting to go up. Amazon doesn't have them in stock anymore.
Oh,
So like last night I just did panic buys and got Prometheus, Alien Covenant, and Alien 4K because they're like vanishing quickly, and we don't know when Disney is going to whip Fox in the ass and say start making more of these. So you know, panic buying on my part, but I'm starting to look at like price trends on these, and they're going up, and so I mean, just more shit to buy and bring home for me. But again, it's like, well, I'd much rather have them and not. Plus, I don't have any of those on 4K anyway, so I'm really interested in seeing how the 40th anniversary of Alien looks. And from the screenshots I have seen, it looks gorgeous. But I mean, even on Blu-ray alone, like they looked fantastic. So I'm really excited about having those in the collection. But again, I already have them on Blu-ray. But I'm looking around at some of this stuff, and some of the prices are really ridiculous. But that's all I'm going to say about that, because I talk about Alien a lot.
no, that's good. And I mean, I feel like it's definitely good. You have an expertise in tracking that kind of stuff, and I mean that's I think there's people that listen that is very valuable information to. It's valuable to me. I mean, I don't always act on it, but it's good to know, because there's been a couple times when you've told me stuff like that, and I immediately was like, okay, well, I'm buying this now, because you know, better to buy it now than try and buy it. Because this is one thing, like I had gotten used to for a while this idea that everything's just like a click away on Amazon and you get it the next day or whatever. And that's not the case anymore. And, you know, it does disappear, it does go out of print. And you know what, Dawn of the Dead, it's been out of print for how long?
Several years now. I mean, it's available now through Second Sight. They had this really beautiful edition that came out. Yeah, so if you've got multi-region Blu-ray player, you can you know, whiz that thing home. It's really nice looking. It's got Blu-ray and 4K cuts of all the different editions of Dawn of the Dead. So even the Argento cut and all that stuff, that's all in there.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, you know, we were talking about this earlier. Especially with all theaters are up in the air right now with the ArcLight closing, and just, you know, I don't know. I feel like the future of and you were saying Warner Brothers is gonna like supposedly close down their physical media. It's not gonna be available. They won't be making it.
That's the rumor going on right now, that by next year there will no longer be Warner Brother DVD or Blu-ray.
Yeah, see, that's
made. So they're going to go strictly digital.
There's so much flux, and then you know the idea that, you know, Marvel dumped Diamond, and now Diamond might be going bankrupt, and it's just really, we're kind of entering an uncertain era for a lot of things that we based, you know, our lives on. And I think definitely, and I think you're starting to see too, like Severin is a company I didn't really pay attention to before, because most of the stuff that they put out I didn't care about. Now they're starting to get stuff that I'm like, oh, you know, I did finally watch Alex de la Iglesias. They put out, I think they're 2K, there might be 4, I think they're 2K scans of Day of the Beast, which has been impossible to find for a long time, and Perdita Durango. Both of those are now on Shudder, by the way, so people can watch them. I don't know how long they'll be up. I haven't watched Perdita Durango yet. I did get the Blu-ray for Day of the Beast and finally watched it, and it's fucking fantastic. I could definitely recommend that to everybody. It's fun. I mean, you look it up on IMDb, it's like the genre tags. It's got like every genre. It's like comedy, horror, action, you know, suspense, blah, blah. It is all of those things. And it's a movie that, like what we're talking about, like I had been wanting to see it for a long time, and it just really wasn't available in physical media. And I think that's going to happen again. So it's good. Like, I think when you bring you bring that kind of knowledge to the show. That's very valuable information for the people that some of the people that listen to the show. Cause I think horror goes hand in hand with media. And, you know, like you said earlier, I mean, I'm always going to buy stuff. I'm not going to buy everything I used to buy, but
yeah,
I'm,
but when
I'm
you
always
see
gonna buy
shit,
stuff.
yeah, but I mean that's what I encourage people to do. When you see shit, buy it because it ain't around forever. And if
Yeah.
you don't buy it, guess what happens? They stop making it. So here we are.
And I mean, you know, Joe Bob pointed out, he had a long monologue, I think last year, about the fact that, like, don't take for granted this stuff is always going to be there, because the people that stream it can decide not to stream it. They can decide not to host it. Maybe somebody finds it offensive. I mean, that's definitely a rising trend that will hopefully, you know, swing back the other way to some degree. But I mean, you never fucking know. Some of this stuff you might not be able to see it. So like Skinned Alive, as soon as I saw that, or Skin Deep, I'm sorry, as soon as I saw that was going to be released, I'm like, fuck yes, because I don't even know if that's streaming anywhere. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like, it's not a great movie, but to me, I'm like, it's worth having just because it's a conversation piece. It's like, I can't wait to sit with you guys in Ray's backyard and watch it just to get the same what the fuck reaction I had when my friend Dennis showed it to me. I was just like, what am I watching? So yeah, I mean, I'm always attentive and glad when you talk about those things, and like Blu-ray.com, the tools that you use to get your information. You're very good at it, and it has definitely helped me.
Well,
So,
thank you.
yeah, man, definitely.
On that note, I got to hit the dusty trail.
Cool, me too. So we'll do this again soon for the Horror Vision Horror
Absolutely.
Podcast. I'm Sean.
I am Abominable Anthony.
And I'm gonna have to remember to go with the Slayer Sean thing, but for now I'm just Sean, and good night, Godspeed, bye media.
Stay scared.
Stay scared. Later, man. Ready? You sure?
Yes. So Sean, Anthony Ray.
What are you wearing?
Ooh,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
a polo shirt. And we need to poo the fuck out of this.
Hello, welcome to another episode of The Polo Shirt. I'm Sean. No.
I'm sorry.